Hey everybody, this is dHunter and my lovely wife Patricia bringing you another movie review. Today, we're reviewing Star Trek Insurrection. This is the 9th Star Trek film and the 3rd Next Generation film. This film was made by Jonathan Frakes, who directed Star Trek First Contact, which was incredibly successful. And this movie is a lot lower stakes than First Contact. I personally am not a fan of this movie. It's my least favorite Next Generation movie. I think it's kind of dumb. It tries to be funny and jokes, and I don't know, after First Contact, which was such a great film, this was rather disappointing. Me, who's a huge Star Trek fan for the universe as a whole, with the Dominion War going on and the entire Federation future at stake, to do a movie that completely ignores that, I found almost offensive. I'm a huge Deep Space Nine fan. When this movie came out, I was watching the show as it was airing live, and for them to ignore those events really sucks.
They mentioned it.
Yeah, they casually mention it like 2 times, which I appreciate, those Easter eggs and the acknowledgement, but
you're expecting something more grand.
Yes, if I could have picked, I would have had this be a movie featuring the Deep Space Nine crew going to Deep Space Nine, fighting the Dominion throughout the film. But I also understand Star Trek First Contact was a dark and action-packed film, so they want to go a completely different direction, make it more lighthearted. And they are defending, human rights and that sort of stuff, so it's in vein with Star Trek for sure. But just with the events going on, and they have the flagship, the most powerful ship in the entire Federation, I feel like they would be on the front lines helping. We'll talk about that more as we get through it.
But if you're watching Deep Space Nine, then it's the Defiant.
Yeah, but
it's not Enterprise.
They should both be there. That would have been such a cool movie, and they shared the screen together in the last movie. Could have done it again, but like I said, I understand they're going a completely different direction. This is Star Trek Insurrection. This movie takes place in 2375 and came out in 1998. Like I said, directed by Jonathan Frakes, who's a really good director. Stakes are a lot smaller, as it's just 11 people whose sort of fate is at stake. Whereas, like I said, the Dominion War, the entire Alpha Quadrant, which is billions and billions of lives.
Or
I will try not to keep beating that dead horse with a stick, but it'll probably come up another umpteen times throughout this video.
Or First Contact, that was the entire...
Yeah, the entire future of everything, the Federation and whatever. Mm-hmm. Like I said, stakes a lot smaller. So this movie starts off on a random planet. You don't really know who it is, and you see there are Starfleet officers and aliens, and they're sort of spying on this other culture. And we see this before in Next Generation, where they have a hidden sort of research center, and they're watching the planet. This is the Baku. They have this planet that regenerates your life, keeps you...
But you don't know that. Keeps
you don't know
young
that yet.
And healthy, and...
Yeah,
but you don't know that yet.
It conveniently has you peak out at age like 30 or whatever, and so if you're a little kid, you're not a little kid forever. If you're an old man, you turn into someone, sort of the prime age of human life. A lot of conveniences with this planet. Of course, this planet, you can imagine how desirably it's pretty much the fountain of youth, which is everyone's dream, to live forever.
That.
And you can heal illnesses, etc., etc. But you start off by seeing the Starfleet with some aliens spying on this culture. And at one point, an invisible person comes in and starts attacking all these different officers, and you're kind of like, what is going on? This is really weird. And he pulls off the mask, and it's Data. Of course, Data's a good guy, so why is he attacking all these Starfleet officers? Mm-hmm. So you think, is something wrong? Is Data malfunctioning? Is this lore? Is this evil Data? And they keep ordering him, stop, stop, and it's very dramatic. Data, I order you, stand down! And it's just a little much. But it's kind of cool, and you see the guys, invisible guys, being thrown into the water and stepping on the grass, and this whole culture is screaming and running around.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's
not knowing what's going on, and all of a sudden this person just comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, so it's a kind of cool opening. Then it takes place on the Enterprise E, and of course the Enterprise E looks beautiful as ever. Sovereign-class ship, nice, sleek, all this new technology. The way the movie's shot, the music, none of those are a problem. I just think the story kind of sucks, and they try to shove so much dumb humor in it, and just has so much dumb stuff. I know everyone hates Nemesis as far as Star Trek movies go, especially the Next Generation ones, but I prefer Nemesis to this quite a bit. Even with all the dumb stuff in Nemesis, this one has at least as much dumb stuff and fails pretty badly. So we're on the Enterprise E. We see some sort of conference type thing going on. Very specifically, I remember Picard with his main crew going down the turbo lift, and they're rehearsing all these lines, and they mention, "Gotta put out one more brush fire for the Federation. Don't you remember we used to be explorers?" It's sort of hinting at the Dominion War, but that's all you really get is that sort of stuff. So they're going down there to meet this culture that I guess just achieved warp power a couple years ago, and I remember Deanna Troy asking, well, why would they want them to join the Federation? They're so primitive, compared to us. And he's like, between our losses with the Borg and the Dominion, we could take all the allies we can get. I do appreciate those Easter eggs, but to me, to make this movie would have been at least satisfying. Maybe start off with the Enterprise fighting a Jem'Hadar ship. Maybe they get damaged, or they're with a fleet of ships. They go to Deep Space Nine at the opening scene. Go on board, talk to a couple characters, and then bam, go on to their own mission. Something like that would have been very satisfying for me. Like I said, I'm not trying to beat this dead horse with a stick, but it's going to come up from time to time. And the whole meeting with these weird little short alien creatures.
The Munchkins from the Wizard of Oz.
Yes.
They joined the Federation.
There's nothing special about them. They have this dumb part where they put a little thing on Picard's head, and they have a dance with him, and it's just dumb. It's not funny, it's just stupid. Picard gets contacted by Admiral, I believe, Dougherty, and he asks for data schematics, asks why, and he's like, Data's gone rogue, and did he take his motion chip with him? No, that's left behind. So Picard gladly sends on the schematics, thus sort of setting up what's going on in the movie so far. Of course, we have this alien species on the planet, which you were introduced to. They're called the Baku, and they're a very peaceful people. They sort of project technology, and they live on this planet that keeps them a certain age forever. They're not native to that planet. Then you have the Sona. I keep wanting to call them Sonar, but it's a Sona, and they're a different race. Of course, later you'll find out they're truly part of the Baku. They left there. And they have two other races that sort of formed with them like a symbiotic relationship or something, and they're all called the Sona. It's like a little Triceratops-looking people and some other ones, and then the stretchy-faced guys. It's an interesting concept, having three different species sort of combined into one. I don't even know what the word is. Not race, but it's kind of like the Federation, I guess, to a point. Yeah. The movie ends up on the Sona again, and Data takes a little shuttlecraft thing and attacks them, and I don't know, was able to do a surprising amount of damage for such a small craft, sort of stating his intentions. At this point, Picard decides to take upon himself to go to the Briar Patch. It's a weird area of space that these planets are located in, and he wants to, figure out what's going on. Data, save him, shut him down, whatever. They develop a way to shut him down with a tricorder, but they have to be close to him. When they arrive there, the animal's kind of surprised, because did not ask them to come.
That was not their orders.
Yeah, so they always defy orders in the movies a little bit more than the TV show. So they have a plan to stop Data. They get into their own little shuttlecraft, and they're chasing. It's kind of cool visually, the scene, and you see some of the newer type of sleeker shuttlecrafts, etc., etc. But the whole scene ends up being dumb, if you ask me. Picard's with Worf, and like I said, they have this tricorder, but they're close to Data to shut him down because he's malfunctioning or whatever. And I remember Picard asks Worf...
Is it Worf or Geordi?
It's Worf. Picard asks Worf,
right.
Do you know Gilbert and Sullivan? I guess they're the people that made the song. And Worf, kind of funnily, when this joke actually hits proper to me, he says, I haven't had a chance to meet all the new members of the crew. And back it up even, because as a lot of you guys know, Worf is currently assigned to Deep Space Nine. He's a member of their crew, and in First Contact, it was a very natural way for them to go there. He was on the Defiant, defending the Earth against the Borg, and a ship got damaged, and they beamed him on. Very, very cool way to incorporate them. This one, he sees Worf just comes out of nowhere, and he's like, Worf, what are you doing here? And then they start to tell him, and the camera just sort of goes off, and I think that's actually a very clever way to handle this as well. Don't address it. Who cares? It doesn't matter. He's there because he's part of the main crew of the TV show. He's not assigned there. I actually appreciate that. It's kind of like when the triple episode of Deep Space Nine, they're back, and he's like, why do the Klingons not have ridges? Why do they look so different? He's like, we don't talk about it. It's like, there's no point to address it. Just move on down the road.
We don't discuss that with outsiders.
Enterprise, of course, decided to address that to no end, but unnecessary. Anyway, Worf mentions, I haven't met all the members of the crew. Picard looks kind of like, and it's some song that I guess him and Data were singing. So they're singing this song while chasing Data, and Data's like singing the song with them, and it is just so stupid. Then they connect the two shuttlecrafts together, and of course Data doesn't notice. He's too preoccupied singing. If you know anything about Data, it makes no sense. A positron brain would never be tricked like this. It's just preposterous. Another dumb thing in the film that just doesn't work, and it's just stupid. They're trying too hard to be funny. course, they get onto the Data shuttle. Data jumps, tricorder stops, and bam, he falls down. Works as according to plan. Back on the Enterprise, they have Data, and he's, I don't know, chained to the wall or something. And they find out he's not evil, and he doesn't really remember what happened. So at this point, they go down there to save the captured Starfleet officers that the Baku has, and they go down there all just sort of eating in this table, and nobody's captured, nobody, everyone's free, they're fine. Picard talks to them, finds out they're harmless, they don't like technology, they don't really know what's going on, they're just being observed, and Picard's like, okay, well, they're watching this species, not really sure what's going on here, okay, that's pretty standard, we observe cultures all the time.
But at the same time, what would make Data...
Yeah, what would make him go rogue like that, and they don't know, they're doing diagnostics on him, all this stuff. It's not unusual for Starfleet to observe cultures. They have this thing called the Prime Directive, where they can't interfere with cultures, and so they do it when they're hidden, as to not interfere with these primitive type cultures. Of course, these guys are not as primitive. They have technology, they just choose not to use it. They actually came to this planet from another planet, because their planet, I don't know, was dying or whatever happened. So they have the ability to warp drive and all that sort of stuff. They just choose not to use it. So the Prime Directive doesn't exactly apply, but you don't really know all this yet. Meanwhile, the Enterprise, you have Riker and Troy. They're supposed to be studying the sonar. They're looking up all this stuff, and you see Troy sort of teasing him and, playing with his neck. And they used to be lovers. Even before the Next Generation TV show, they've never really gotten back together, and it's sort of laying the siege that here, as this planet has this effect on people where everyone feels younger. Picard, he's in the Enterprise after they go back up, and he's like doing the mamba and dancing. It's so dumb, and he's looking at like his hair, his chin, his hair, facial hair coming in, because it's kind of de-aging them a little bit. Geordi's eyes are starting to regrow, which is kind of cool, and it sets up, are you willing to give up these things in order to do the right thing? But it's just dumb. Picard dancing the mamba. Ugh, come on. Like, so many jokes that are just stupid in this. And it's... Even the show didn't have, like, such dumb stuff in it most of the time.
Most of the time.
And now that we've sort of established they recover Data, there's no problem there. Federation citizens, Starfleet officers, everything's fine. There's no worry about anything going on right there. The Admiral asks him, why are you guys still here? And Picard says, well, we want to do a full investigation, find out what's wrong with Data. And he's like... Alright, you've got, 24 hours or whatever, and then I want the Enterprise out of here. So they go back down to the planet, they're talking to the inhabitants or whatever, and it's kind of developing a little love thing between Picard and one of the leaders of the Baku, and it just doesn't really interest me very much. I guess that was...
They're trying to make him seem like...
the Kirk. Yeah, he gets the woman, he's the action hero, which they did pretty successfully in First Contact. I mean, he's an older guy, but he's still in pretty freaking good shape, honestly, and he was the action hero in that. Now they try to make him the action hero in this one, in Nemesis, and it doesn't do as good a job. I had read that his love interest with her was a lot more lengthy in the original film. They cut a lot of that out, and it pissed off Patrick Stewart. So they go down there, they're meeting the culture, Data's hanging out with this kid, which also I think is just really dumb. The kid's trying to teach him how to have fun and be human, and he has this little pet thing, and it's just dumb. Eventually, though, they go and they find this cloaked ship. It's a transport ship, and it has like a hologram of the Baku village in here. So basically, Starfleet, supposed to be these noble, good people, were planning to take these 100 people while they're sleeping, beam them onto this holographic ship, and not even tell them they're not at home, and then transport them to some other planet and ditch them there. That way, they can have the Fountain of Youth and do what they want with it. And that is the epitome of what Starfleet is against, of course. You have the Sona sort of encouraging this. They're bad people. They actually are members of Baku that left because they had sort of falling out with them.
Children.
And they're, I don't know, using this weird technology to stretch their skin, and it keeps them alive. But they're disgusting at this point, and they're older. And they want the technology so they can get back on the planet and kind of get back to normal, rejuvenate themselves. And then Starfleet wants the planet because something in the rings, they can create like medicines and save billions of people. And honestly, I mean, think about it. 111 people or whatever it is versus be able to cure billions of diseases. And I mean, honestly...
But who are they to play God?
Yes, but I mean, the Admiral makes points. His orders came from Starfleet Command. It wasn't like he is just a rogue admiral. He's executing his orders. But he mentions they're not indigenous to that planet, so the Prime Directive doesn't apply, this, that, and the other, so it's like... I mean, if you think about it logically, like a Vulcan would have been like, get those people out of here. Logic dictates that we need to use this for the greater good of the many, not the few or the one. Mm-hmm. I'm just saying there's a very strong point to be had that this could actually be very useful to the galaxy. But Baku selfishly is staying there, and I mean, it's not the right thing to do to transport people against their will and that sort of stuff.
But they didn't know that it was going to be like that when they got there.
No, by all means, but now that you do, it's...
And they've been there for 200 and some odd years.
Yeah, I mean...
So that's almost like 2-3 generations, so it's like they're native at a point.
When we watched the movie, I remember discussing, well, couldn't they just like stay in their one little village and use the rest of the planet, bring people there that are sick and dying, and utilize the power from the rings around the planet without having to move Baku? I'm not really sure why that's a problem. Whatever. The whole point is they're trying to forcibly relocate these people, and I mean, if you go back to Star Trek Next Generation near the end in season 7, there's a part where Picard is ordered to move these Native Americans off this planet because the Cardassians now own this planet. It's in the demilitarized zone, and he doesn't like it, but he's literally there, and he's telling them that we're going to take you out of here. We're going to keep the peace, and it's like, what the hell? Like 5 years ago, it's cool for him to be relocating these Native Americans against their will, but then now you have the Baku, and there's all this rewards you can get. So I mean, there's a very valid point to like it sort of contradicts. He follows orders. Yes, these are sort of corrupt orders right now, but back then, I mean, it's not the right thing to do either, and he didn't stand up for it then. So I don't know. I have mixed feelings on here. They find this ship though, and of course, it's in the water. Data like falls under the water and it comes up, and he's like, if anyone needs a flotation device, well, it's just so dumb. Like, no one laughs at that. It's just stupid. Then they get back up to the ship and everything, they're kind of normal, but they've discovered this hidden ploy, and the Admiral talks to them, and, he sort of calls them out, hey, we found your ship, we know what you're trying to do, and he's like, okay, well, I order you guys out of the system immediately. And Picard's pissed off, and he's trying to, I think they even meet face to face. He goes on the ship, and Picard's like, I will not allow this. And he's like, go ahead and go back, file with the council. By the time you do, it'll all be done. Yeah. So Picard, is like, okay, well, I have no choice. And then he takes his uniform off, takes his little badges off, and he's like, I'm going to go down there, gets all these weapons, goes down there, wears regular clothes, and of course, that's the whole point of this movie, Insurrection. Insurrection's like a rebellion, and, Picard and his crew are causing insurrection against Starfleet to a point, but they're fighting these wrong orders. Of course, right when Picard's about to go down, the entire senior crew comes and meets him, and of course, some are in Starfleet uniforms, some are in casual clothes, because they've already decided who's going to go down to the planet, who hasn't. Riker and Geordi stay, and I think everyone else goes down there. And they're basically like, we're not going to let you do this alone. And then Data, of course, grabs a gun, lock and load, let's saddle up. It's just cheesy. None of it, comes off as cool or badass. It's just cheesy, like everything else in this movie. So the crew gets down on the planet, and they're basically trying to escort the Baku to some caves where they're going to be safer. The Sona...
where they can't be beamed off.
Yeah, they're trying to beam them off of there. All the stuff's going on. So the Sona, of course, their goal is to relocate these people. They want to, no matter what it takes, whether it's on a hollow ship, whether we beam them up, whether we take them by force with guns. Hell, even if we kill them at this point, they don't care. They just want this technology, which they're going to have to split 50-50 with the Federation. I guess, like the Sona have the technology to utilize the rings, but Starfleet has the planet, or vice versa, something like that.
Yeah. So
basically they have to share it 50-50 with this race that you've never heard of. It can't be as big power in the Alpha Quadrant. Which does remind me, I do want to mention also in Star Trek Deep Space Nine that we just watched recently, because we're watching at the same time, near the end of the show, Season 7, they actually mentioned the Baku, or the Sona. So in this movie, they mentioned the Sona mass-produced Ketracel White for the Jem'Hadar.
That's right, yes.
And they're like, why would we be doing business with these guys? And, then you find out they kind of have to because they have the technology and blah, 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 all this stuff. But I remember Wayun talking to Damar, and he's like, we have to send some more ships to protect so-and-so planet. And he's like, why can't the Sona protect it? And he's like, don't question my orders. And I love little references to Easter eggs like this. I just really appreciate that sort of stuff. Back on topic, they're trying to get the Baku from their village to these caves. The Sona are aware of this. They send these little drones down there, try to tag them all so they can beam them up when they have these isolinear tags on them. And you just have all this dumb stuff going at the same time. Worf has this giant pimple on his face, and it's just cheesy.
He's flirting back.
Yes. And Riker's like, Klingons don't do anything small, do they? Like, okay, that was slightly funny, but that whole pimple thing is just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Data walks by Deanna Troi, and she's talking to Beverly, and she's like, don't you notice your boobs are starting to firm up? And then he goes up to, like, Worf and says, don't you notice your boobs are firming up? It's just so dumb. It's not funny at all. It's just stupid. And I can laugh at a good joke. Like 90% of this movie just falls short and they're just stupid.
But at the same time, back then when you first saw it, I'm sure you laughed.
No.
Because at that point in time, that's how it was.
This is one of the only movies of Star Trek that I actually saw in theaters. I remember I was with my cousins for a couple weeks down south, and they're big Star Trek fans, kind of got me into Star Trek. We went and saw that movie in theaters, and I was like underwhelmed and disappointed. First Contact I was super impressed with, and that one even, most of them have little jokes, and sometimes they're just whatever. Sometimes they're kind of funny, but these ones are actually worse. They're just dumb. They suck, most of them. The whole movie just is brought down by this childish humor that doesn't even work. Anyway, they're tagging all these Baku and getting some of them out here as they're progressing closer and closer to these caves. Meanwhile, Riker was ordered to leave the system, and he's leaving to go contact Starfleet and let them know what's going on here. Of course, the Admiral allows whatever the main guy's name is, God, I can't think of his name, and they take the Sono ships to stop them. It's so dumb, and even on the Enterprise, Riker fights them, and he's like, get manual mode. A big stupid joystick, like a video game comes out, and he's like using a joystick. Really? This kind of technology of a joystick? And that's it's just so dumb. So dumb. The ship battle was slightly cool, I guess. It gave Riker something to do. In this movie, Beverly Crusher, Deanna Troi, Geordi, and Worf do damn near nothing. It's really just Picard and Data, as it often is.
But they're there.
They're there, yes, but they don't do a good job of giving everyone something to do. At least in First Contact, they all sort of had their own little jobs and tasks to do on the...
Yeah.
Whatever. Eventually, they even tag Picard and the Baku woman that his sort of love interest, and they get beamed up on top of the ship. At this point, Picard has become aware that the Sona are the Baku the same race. He explains it to the Admiral. The Admiral had no idea. He's surprised. Picard's like, he got in the middle of a blood feud, all this sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. The Enterprise has destroyed their ship, so they know word has got out to Starfleet. Like, we can't cover this up anymore. It's too late. Enterprise, of course, is on their way back, to help Picard and all them. Picard confronts the Admiral. Admiral basically at this point is like, all right, we've gone too far. It's done. He confronts the Sonar guy who ends up killing him. And then you're left with Picard, who's captured, the Enterprise on their way, and you got the Sonar guys trying to deploy this collector thing that's going to destroy all life on the planet and collect the rings and kill the Baku, and he doesn't care at this point. He just wants the technology or the ability to have the Fountain of Youth and all this stuff. It's all sort of coming up to the climactic ending here. Picard ends up going on to the collector, and so does the Sonar main bad guy. And they're fighting, they're punching each other. I mean, it's the Picard action here. That's cool. I don't even mind that. It's not that bad. Enterprise comes, beams Picard out at the last second. They do have a really cool scene right before that where they tricked all the Sona people beaming them onto like a holographic fake collector, and they think they're on there, and they kind of use their own trick against them. That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Long story short, they destroy the collector. Picard gets saved by the Enterprise. They even have control of the Sona ship at that point because it was damaged and has no oxygen left. So Worf's like, they surrendered. He's like, what changed? Like, they have 1 minute of oxygen left. But it works. Like, that stuff's cool. Like, I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
And as a whole, Starfleet stands up for people, doing the right thing and protecting, innocent species and that sort of stuff. And they were going against sort of the core fundamentals. So I appreciate this movie addressing that sort of stuff and being a very sort of Star Trek-y thing as far as, no, we're going to stand up for what's right, that sort of stuff. But
civilizations.
But I just hate that this huge war is going on, costing billions and billions of lives and thousands of ships.
And yet the main...
Yeah, like the best ship in the entire fleet is not assisting in that. It would have been nice if they were at least assisting them, perhaps had to go do something else. I don't know. I mean, he was on an ambassadorial type mission, bringing another race into the Federation, and they needed as many allies as they can, so I mean, that kind of makes sense. He has the flagship. I just have such mixed feelings on the whole premise of the movie, and I get they're trying to go different from First Contact, and then Nemesis goes back to being this sort of, you know, more actiony and ship battle type movie. It just, ugh, frustrates me. The whole plot of the movie, it sucks and it's stupid. You know, long story short, end of the movie, Picard, you know, meets Baku, tells them, oh, I have, I don't know, 180 days of shore leave, I'll come visit you sometime. Of course, he's never going to visit them.
But you also find out that the Sona are the children of...
Yeah, she's like, aren't you so-and-so, like, Malachi or something? You sound very familiar, and, you know, at the end he's hugging his mom, and like, oh, the healing has begun. A lot of people say this movie feels like a 2-part episode, and it kind of does, but the stakes are even lower than most 2-part episodes.
Yeah.
Like, the stakes are just very low, and it's a small-scale movie, and I would appreciate that if it didn't just have so much dumb shit in it, bringing the movie down. That sucks. Also, just the fact that I'm watching Voyager, Deep Space Nine, and Next Generation at the same time. I know what's going on in this universe. This whole premise is very out of place for what's going on actively in the year 2375 in the Star Trek world. So, if I were to rate this movie, I mean, the acting really isn't a problem. They did what they're supposed to do, but the writing, I think, sucks. The jokes suck. The effects, you know, they're fine. But I'm just not invested. I don't really care that much about the Sona. Like, if it was a species I was familiar with, be a little more invested, but the Sona, like, never heard of them before. I can't imagine they have more than, like, 20 ships. For, like, they're a small little species.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Well, the only thing that would have made it actually worth it would have been seeing Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, he should be in this, and I don't know why he's not in the...
else.
I don't know why he's not in any of the new Star Trek shows. That sucks, I think, but...
But he was in Deep Space Nine at the time. Even in Voyager.
I don't know if he was in Next Generation. I know he was originally possibly going to be Riker at one point, but he's a fantastic actor and very diverse. Yes, that would have been really cool. He could have easily been one of the Baku guys or Sona.
Yes.
But the movie... Everyone shits on Nemesis and says how bad it is. And yes, it's not great, but I enjoy rewatching it much more than Insurrection. Insurrection, the like concept of the movie itself, I find almost offensive. It just sucks that there's so much more important life stake and galaxy stakes at hand right now, and they don't even... Yeah, they casually mention it in 1 or 2 little lines. I would have been so cool if the movie just opened with them. Maybe they... It doesn't even have to show a skirmish. Like, they're damaged with a group of ships. They come back. They stop at Deep Space Nine. Then they find out Data's malfunctioning, and then they go there sort of against their orders. That would have been awesome. And you could have had a little scene maybe with 1 or 2 Deep Space Nine, you know, regulars, meet them, and then bam, go do your thing. It could have been so cool.
But then knowing
that would have explained how they got Worf, too.
But then also knowing that billions of people have died from the Dominion War. Why are you not fully addressing that?
Yeah. Like, at least they did mention it a couple times. I'm sure they were probably forced to. Probably the Next Generation people are like, oh, we're going to stay away from that. But it's like, you can't stay away from that if you know what's going on here.
Yeah. And so, Worf. I mean, you got Worf in there, too. So.
Yeah, that's just my biggest problem with the movie, is that stuff. It causes me to want to give this movie like a 4 out of 10. I'll probably give it like a 5 out of 10, because it's cool to see Next Generation crew together. The effects are good and all, but the movie is very disappointing. Very disappointing. It's almost Star Trek V bad. Like Star Trek V, this is what Star Trek V is for the original crew for the Next Generation, in my opinion. Everyone says Nemesis is that. I disagree. And even if there wasn't the Dominion Warrior on, the movie's still not good. Like, the jokes are bad, the stakes are small. Yeah, he's standing for what's right. Like, the principles of the movie make sense. Just frustrates me. I had such expectations of what the movie might be, considering what's happening in Deep Space Nine and everything, and it's just very disappointing. I wanted to see, giant ship battles and fleets together, but no, didn't even get remotely close to that. Barely even got a mention of what's going on. So, we do have Nemesis to watch next, and that one is mediocre as well. But I'm looking much more forward to rewatching that one than Insurrection here. Yeah, and Tom Hardy, that messed his career up for like 10 years. Still, what do you rate the movie? I'd 5 out of 10, and that's maybe being a little bit generous. I don't know.
I mean, it's next gen TV, so I mean,
like that. I love that stuff. The crew together, they have their own little.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, 4 4.5.
That's about what it's worth, in my opinion. And I'm a little bit harsher on it just because I hate the whole premise of the movie. It makes it hard to objectively look at certain things, but the more I look at it objectively, the more I even like it less.
But at the same time, I enjoy the fact that they're still working on civilizations and people instead of, like, Star Wars. Wars.
No,
I don't care about that.
And I agree 100%. It just, with what's happening in the universe right now, that's what makes it sucks. That this would have been a great movie if you didn't have this giant thing happening that you kind of brush off and ignore. Mm-hmm. And there's just so much that a few little tweaks could have made this movie so much better. So, anyway, this is D. Hunter. My lovely wife Patricia will be watching Star Trek Nemesis next, and that will finish out the Next Generation films. Moving on to the reboot films next. So I hope you guys like this video. If you liked it, press like below. If you have anything you want to say about the video, add to the comment section. If you want to see additional movie or action figure videos from me, press subscribe. I do appreciate that. As always, live long and prosper, and we'll talk to you guys real soon.